for the Friday Country Viewpoint program, and great to be joined by Sean Hickey, Agricultural Analyst at ProFarmer Grain. Sean, how are you going?
Yeah, good, thanks, Ricky. Going well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, the market seems to be ticking along fairly nicely as well, but let's just look at the production estimates. Whilst the prices are reasonable, really big challenges for our farmers with so much wet and even flooding in places.
Yeah, that's right. We have seen some more mixed production estimates in comparison to what we saw last month. So Australian crop forecasters recently reviewed their overall winter crop forecast and left that unchanged at 57.8 million tonnes. But there were some more changes at a regional level. So we saw an increased level of abandoned hectares in New South Wales, and as you mentioned, that was due to the flooding. So we have seen a 3% cut to winter crop production in New South Wales. But that was offset by yield increases in the Mallee region, southern parts of New South Wales, and then parts of South Australia as well. So that's why the overall winter forecast winter crop forecast was left unchanged. So I suppose if we look a little bit closer at the specific commodity groups, we've got national canola production currently sitting at 6.7 million tonnes. So that's 6% decline on the record production we saw last year. But personally, I think that may very well be increased over the next month or so. We're seeing some pretty good yields through parts of WA and South Australia as well. So there's a good chance we might actually see over 7 million metric tonnes of canola production, which would be another record. And again, that was driven by pretty strong prices, which drove an increased planted area. We've got wheat at 34.1 million tonnes. So again, that's 11% lower on last season. And then barley is currently sitting at 12.8 million metric tonnes at a national level, and that's 8% lower. Chickpeas is probably the interesting one there. That's really seen a pretty steep decline in production. So 29% down, and that's currently sitting at 600,000 metric tonnes.
Yeah, it's interesting to pick through some of that in a way, Sean, because the plantings we saw probably the expectations were that because canola prices were so good, a number of farmers pivoted to stay away from barley and wheat. And I thought with chickpeas there was a little bit of a hiccup with the Indian market for a while. Do you think that might have scared some people off?
Yeah, potentially. So I think there was quite a decline in area planted in parts of Queensland, but we've also seen a reduction in yields as well, which has kind of further impacted that year-on-year production decline. I suppose there is some good news for producers. The Indian Free Trade Agreement actually recently was ratified in the Australian Parliament, so we're just waiting for that to go through in India. And then we'll hopefully see some increased export demand from the Indian subcontinent.
Yeah, we tracked that one closely. We've had some criticisms aired by the opposition about making sure that was sealed by the end of this year, whereas the UK Free Trade Agreement's only going to kick in next year, so the tariff reductions have to wait another year there. Is there any indication the Indian deal could be sealed before the end of this year?
I think the general expectations are that it will be. So getting it through the Australian Parliament is obviously a really positive move, and we expect that to go through the same process over in India prior to the end of 2022. So we think that'll be done before the Christmas period. However, as you know, things can change, but overall, yeah, we think that'll happen.
And lastly, on the good news front, really, from food security's point of view, we were leading up to this last Saturday, the potential that the Russian grain deal, the export out of the Black Sea, has that actually been continued? How long has it been extended for, if it has?
Yeah, that's right. So that was the big news in international markets that we've obviously seen over the last few weeks, with Russia initially suspending the deal 3 or so weeks ago before re-engaging in the deal, and obviously the expiry date coming up last Saturday. So that deal, or the Black Sea grain export deal, has now been extended, and that's for a further 3 months or further 120 days, which is really positive news for global supply, given the amount of production that comes out of that Black Sea region. So that will provide some more certainty in regards to global supplies, particularly regarding wheat and barley, though it has had an impact on oilseed supplies as well, given the amount of sunflower seed that is exported from that region too. So that has had a bit of a downwards impact on international grain and oilseed prices over the last few days. but we're now seeing that start to stabilise.
Well, I imagine the market can now sort of price in the certainty that's in there, whereas when it was up and down, the market was probably relying on rumours and suggestions about whether it was on or off and jumping all over the place.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we obviously will see those prices stabilise. I think Ukraine is pushing for a longer-term agreement. So I think they were initially asking for 12 months rather than the 3 months. So that might be something worth keeping an eye on. And then another aspect of that agreement that I think Russia are trying to put in is improving the amount of export of fertilisers from Russia, which are a major producer. So that may also, should that be integrated into the agreement, have some more downwards pressure on global fertiliser prices more widely, I suppose. So that would be a positive news for producers heading into next season too.
Yeah, absolutely. Some farmers might be saying, "You beauty," at the thought of even a slight decrease in fertiliser prices would be a good thing. Sean Hickey from ProFarmer Grain. If people want to hear more from you, how can they get in touch?
Feel free to just jump on our website, so www.profarmergrain.com.au, and you'll find contact details there. You'll also find updated local grain prices and also a number of subscription services that we do offer for various reports.
Sean Hickey, thanks again for joining us on Flow.
No worries, Ricky. Thanks for having me on.